Welcome back to the One Button Studio. This is Section 2, Lesson 2, Advanced Video Editing. I've got Premiere loaded up right here, and it might look a little bit different from some of the other videos. That's okay. I had it set to a different layout. I have it to editing right now. You can do whatever you want as long as you've got the source monitor, the program monitor, the source, the library project bin down here, and your timeline and your tools. It's fine. You are free to move this around as much as you want. You can move the timelines out. So if you go to undock panel, which will sometimes happen, and now how do you fix this? You can simply drag it in and you can see how it has a little blue-ish line up there. You can hook it right back in to where you want it to go, right like that, and then you can resize it to how that looks. So anyway, we're going to do some different things with some of the clips we're going to look at. We're going to break this video into a couple of different parts. So this is going to be part one. The first thing we're going to do is load up our material. So we're going to go over here to the project. We're going to hit Command I or Control I on a Windows machine. And if you downloaded the practice files already, you'll see there's a folder for it. You can just import the whole folder. Ta-da! There it is. So let's open up that folder, which Premiere calls a bin. I call them folders because it looks like folders. It doesn't matter what you call them. Just know that a bin is a folder. So let's put our sample of Dr. Mitra and Brian Mann on our timeline here. There they are. So we do have to give them a background, so let's go ahead and do that if you remember from last time. Let's stretch it the whole way out here. And in case you don't remember, we're going to go down to Effects. We're going to Video Effects, Keying, and Ultra Key. There we are. There we go. And let's scale down the College of Ed to, let's say here, a good number. Let's scroll down to about like that. Let's actually put it to 41. There we go. And let's move this to here. So it's going to be about 374 on the counter. About like that. Cool. And let's move this to 927. You can also type these values in too, and we'll get to that in a minute. If it's a little faster to type them in, but when you're clicking and dragging, you can kind of get a visual sense of where it's going to be if you haven't done this before. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start hacking up our sample here into different sections, and we're going to try to trick the camera into looking like it's a 3-camera setup where there's one camera trained on Dr. Mitra, one camera trained on Brian, and one camera trained on both of them. So we default by having one camera trained on both of them since there is only one camera here, and we're just kind of trying to have to kind of do some trickery here. So we'll have Dr. Mitra talk for a little while. Let's have her talk for a little bit. Let's see what that sounds like. So you see how it got a little stuttery there, right there? Just hit start and stop on the keyboard with space, and that will usually fix it. Let's start right there. Okay, so let's zoom in a little bit here, and we'll put a cut in with our razor tool. We have to cut both. So when you're doing things like this, you have to adjust the settings for the talent, our two people here, and you have to adjust the background because if they grow and shrink and the background stays the same, it looks really weird and it looks like you did something wrong because you did. If you change the background, it looks more like the camera zoomed in than it does a camera trick. So let's see how long she wants to talk here. let's pause here. Let's go here actually and make a cut with our razor tools. You can just hit C on the keyboard and it will cut right to where the plane line is here. Alright, so because I did this before for you, I have values already put in. So we'll do the X position to 251. And see how I just type that in, and you can see how she moves. The Y position is going to be 668, and that moves her there. And the size is going to be 158. Great. Now you see that she's zoomed in a little bit, and that's fantastic. So the next thing we need to do is check the background for the College of Ed background. And again, I did this for you as well. This is going to be -59. And you see how that moved that all the way over? Don't worry about that. Everything's fine. And then next is going to be 517. That moved that down a little bit there too. And then our size is going to be 82. Great. And so now it looks like we zoomed in. And the reason why it's set to these numbers is because that's essentially where her head is when everything is normal looking. When we go in, and that's about where she is. It's never going to be perfect, but you can get as close to as possible. One thing I also want to recommend is that you write these numbers down on a sheet of paper. Any editor has a sheet of paper, just scratch paper, lying around the editing bay to write these things down on, so when you have to do these over and over again, you don't have to manually figure out. You can just go right in and punch in these values like I did right here. We're going to do this a couple different times. So let's play forward here. Let's go ahead and add a transition. So I'm right-clicking on the edge of the clip and going to default transition, which, in case I didn't say this in other videos, the default transition is generally the crossfade. You can see how it's set around the blue outline there. There we go. When we zoom in to the crossfade, we'll see it there. We don't want it in the audio, so we'll just delete that out. If you're like me, you'll sometimes delete your audio track out. Just hit Command-Z or Control-Z to undo, and it's fine. But now when we play this back, we have a nice smooth transition from one camera setup to another. So some of those transitions looked a little rough, and that's okay because it will render much more smoothly than it will in the preview window. The preview window is just that. It's a preview. Sometimes it goes smoothly, like that time, and sometimes it does not. Just kind of have to roll with it. All right, let's see if we can find a place where Brian talks here, and we'll zoom in on him. Actually, let's do something else. Let's go back to Dr. Mitra here. So we're here. And let's go back to Dr. Mitra right there. V on the keyboard gets you back to your selection tool. And we'll go back in and put in our transitions, deleting out the ones we don't want. Is this easier than dragging them from here to there? I think that it is. This is a taste thing and a preference thing. You're free to do whatever you choose. Let's go forward a bit. We can also cut out this dead space. When you do cut out dead space like that, you want to make sure that you do leave a little bit of space so it sounds natural and doesn't sound really abrupt like so it doesn't sound really abrupt like it was an obvious cut. You want it to sound as natural as possible. We're going to we can use our ripple delete tool here, which is right here, or we can hit All right, so we're going to hit our right click in the dead space and do ripple delete. And there we are. Go back to selection tool and we'll keep going. There, now there's Brian. So let's put in our transition. Okay, let's see where Brian stops talking. You see how Dr. Meacham moves around a little bit? That would be an indication to you to make sure you keep the camera focus on Brian and get rid of some of that extraneous movement. I think he stops right about here. Yeah, he does. Well, let's trim that down a bit. We'll put a cut right smack in the middle, and we'll trim as we need. All right. Also, make sure you hit the V key or go back to your selection tool. Otherwise, you'll just start hacking to pieces your clip, and that can get really bad. All right. So again, because I did the math, and you see where his head is right, roughly around the, covering up the second E and some of the other letters in college. We're going to make sure that we have his sample highlighted, and his numbers are going to be 1660, so 1660. Make sure our view play bar is right there, so you see how he's moved over. Next, we're going to put in 858. It looks kind of funny shrunk down like that, but roll with it. And then next, 170. There, now he looks totally normal. We'll do the same for College of Ed. We'll make that into, for his, that's going to be 1561. Again, how that's moved over. 557 for the Y, and that did that. And then we're going to choose 67 for the size. And there he is. So that's going to be pretty spot on for his close-up. Apply our transitions. Get rid of the ones we don't need. Which in that space is probably okay, but we don't really need them. So he stops right there. And we'll do a small, we can't dribble delete there, so we'll do it that way. And we'll move over his spacing right there to as such, and put back in the, there we go. There's our transitions back again. Okay, go back to having them out there like that for a little while, and that's all we really need for this sample. So let's go ahead and shrink this down. Okay, perfect. So one of the great things I love about storing things in bins is it really keeps your project space really clean, and it keeps it from getting very cluttered, because it can get cluttered very, very quickly. So if everything's kept in bins or folders, it's much easier to find what you need, and of course you can always rename a bin whenever you choose to. So let's go into here and let's find, there's a graphic here we want to use. I think Brian wants to use that, so I think we're going to put it in his here. Now let's go. Let's see. We don't want that. Let's put it right here. No, I lied. Let's put it right here. So we're going to slap this right into video channel 3, and make sure we do that. We want it to kind of fade in after they talk a little bit. Yeah. So let's kind of put that there. Now, please understand that this is just for this video. You want to make sure that these graphics go into a place where they make sense, but we're trying to talk about the skill, not necessarily the finesse of this particular project, and it is just practice, so we're just going to practice the skill. Okay, so let's close our bin. We put our play line right here, and here we have our graphic, but as you can see it's really small. In this case, you can just kind of click and drag, zooming it in. Okay, so you see how it doesn't cover the screen up the way that we want to. So let's go ahead and add a video track. Let's slide that up one, and let's make ourselves a color matte. If we go here to color matte, and this one we're doing as straight black, which is the default, so we'll say yes, and we'll say a black matte for this one. And you see, guys, it's into our project bin, so when we open up our project bin, oops, I did that by accident. Okay. We should have our color matte in here somewhere. We have to do this again. Let's just do it right in the folder this time. There it is. All right, we'll put that matte in our track. Let's make that bigger. So now you see we have black bars on both sides, which is what we want to see. So when you're doing videos for professors, a lot of time they will have figures and charts in their article that we're promoting, and if they want to include it, this is how you would do that. Also if there are any slides that are in a presentation that you've recorded, try to get a copy of those slides. You can convert them to JPEG images, and you can insert them into the video. So when a presenter is giving their presentation and a slide changes, you can go ahead and put that in the video. It makes for a really nice video. So I think we've got our transitions in here. Let me just double check. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. Let's go to like that and like that. So it's just a little shorter. And you can tell if you hover over it, the duration's about 10 seconds, which is probably enough. Again, people can always pause the video too to read something on the screen. You don't have to stress out about how long a graphic's on there. Of course, give it enough time for the average person to read, but again, they can always rewind and pause to look at the graph or chart or graphic in better detail. All right, so let's do something else. So let's do, when they talk about their resource questions, which I believe is about here. Yes. So let's do something different. Normally, I would put in a standard graphic here that would just kind of have their questions 1, 2, 3, and fade in and fade out, and it's nice like that. But in some cases, we may want to do something different. For example, if there's a long list of questions that they would have, or if there's a list of things that we want to include as a part of something that they're, if they're listing their findings, you can list their findings 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So let's do a rolling graphic. So we're going to our graphics window. We'll go to new layer of text, and there it is. Let's also go to window, and let's go to essential graphics to open up this window. You can see I already changed it to our standard black and lighter, I'm sorry, the standard Penn State colors here. Again, you'll have to change it if it's your first time making a graphic in this project, but I was practicing a little earlier, so it's already set up. We'll go to edit, and we need to know what it is that we're putting in here. So in our project bin, we have their questions right here on slide 2. And you can see that we have a typo, we've got a missing space here. So ordinarily, I would recommend that you just copy and paste because it eliminates a lot of transcription errors, but in this case, we have to hand type it in. So we're going to do that here. Here we go. So there's our first question there. We can see that it's overlaid on the graphic, I'm sorry, on the video, which we don't want, but we'll fix. You can see I deleted that by accident. You can see how easy that comes right back on there. All right, so let's keep going here. We're still in this text box. Make sure our type tool's there. All right, and the next question is, I've been centering the text and centering the box on the screen to make sure I can see everything. Oops. Okay, so there's our second question there. We're going to do another color matte, so we'll go color matte, and yes. We're doing nothing but white this time, so we'll do there it is in our bin. Okay, so here we go here. Let's just test this one more time. Great. So, but we want this to scroll. So go ahead up here and click and deselect it right here in the space and click roll. And so now we've got ourselves a scrolling title. You see the little scroll bar here on the program monitor that will scroll it for you. There are some things we can do. We can change the intro and the outro duration if we want to. We can adjust all of this. I'm inclined to let them be for the time being, but if you have a project where you need to adjust these, please feel free to do so. We like them to start off screen, so when they scroll up like you see at the end of movies, and they end off screen, so they go the whole way through. So we leave these two boxes checked. Okay, so now let's play it and see what it looks like. First things first, let's add our transitions in. Okay, so let's go ahead and play it. So you see how that not only was too fast of a crawl, I'm sorry, of a scroll, but didn't last the whole way. So let's go ahead and highlight these two and stretch it all the way out to about here. And then as it fades out, it should fade into our transition going farther. So let's go ahead and zoom this in a little bit. And move it over and slide and adjust the size of our transition. That should be okay too. There, so now when we see that, it should go right back to where we want it to. It didn't, and that's fine. So we'll just do this and stretch it over. And make sure our crossfades don't start until after the clip plays, so we don't see a lot of weird stuff. It's not letting me click there for some reason. There we go. There, that looks good. So let's take a look at our credits again here, at our questions. Okay, that was pretty good. It was a rough rendering transition, but I like it. I think it's going to be good. Yeah, see, that's fine. And like I said, it's a preview window. These things happen. So let's go to the end and let's do this one more time, but this time we're going to do it as an end credit. So we'll add another layer of text and we will center everything. You'll see in the practice files I included the Penn State logo here, even though we don't use it in this video. This is how you can sample your colors. I put it in pretty much every project I use because we need it. We need those colors. So let's pull up in our source window this one here. You just double click on it and it pulls it up here. So we're going to put in a whole bunch of things here. So we'll do this. We'll go back to our bin. We know we need the color mat, so we'll put it there. And that's what we want to see. So in our layer here, I'm going to go ahead and type in a few things. So I close this off. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and type in a few things. Okay, and there's our title. Next, we're going to put in Dr. Mitra, Brian Mann, and their collaborator. Okay, and there they are. Let's adjust our text box again. We'll put in a few more items. So next we're going to put in a credit for us because we made this video. So we will type that in here, and it's a little hard to see, so let's adjust a little bit. Make sure you give yourself credit whenever you can. You work hard on these videos. This is not an easy process that, most people can. Please give yourself credit. You work hard on these videos, and I think people need to know the effort that you put in. Putting in one more thing, and we're going to put in a little plug for the studio as well. And I can't really see. I think I just made a typo. So we will hit Command A or Control A on a Windows PC. And to highlight everything, we'll shrink down, and now we should be able to see it a little bit better. Okay, and so we have our little plugin for us right there, and we are set. So let's give it some music too. So let's go to our project bin. Oh, look, here's some music. All right, and I think about maybe 20 seconds might be a good way. Let's try 30 first and see what that looks like. So here's about 30, give or take a few frames. Yeah, that's close enough. Let's see what that looks like here. Ah, it doesn't look like anything. We didn't choose it to scroll. So let's click on our thing here. Let's click scroll. And now let's see. All right. It looks nice. It's a nice scroll. It seems to be going a little slowly though. So let's stop and let's shrink it down. Let's do 20 seconds. What do you think? So let's find 20 seconds. That's pretty close. Let's put our transitions in too, just to see what that would look like. Come on. You have to be really precise when you do this. And it can be very frustrating. At least I find it frustrating sometimes. There, I wasn't zoomed in close enough. Because I had both highlighted, I put the transition on both. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Let's double check our font size. It's at 81. Let's leave it at that font size. I happen to kind of like that. So let's click on here. We don't want the default, which is my muscle memory. We want to go to a dip to black because that's how we're ending. And let's put that there. And let's give us a little bit of time afterwards. Let's play that and see what that looks like. Yeah, let's end right about there. So to turn our volume down, we want to do a couple things first. Because we don't want that volume to just play up and cut off abruptly because that will sound weird, but we do want it to stop. So let's go here. So at the very end, at the very start of our transition out, we're going to click on the audio track. We'll close that. We're going to Effect Controls, and we want to be on this one. So what we're going to do is put in keyframes for both left and right. That's not what I wanted to do. Keyframes are here, yes. So we want to do level. So a keyframe there and a keyframe there. They don't show up on the screen as of yet, but just wait. Once we resize the tracks, see how it's visible there. One of the reasons why you should always do that to start with, but sometimes we get excited and want to get right to our project. Okay, so there we go. So now it's going to play, and we want it to zero down to 0. You heard me, 0 down to 0. So let's put in 2 more keyframes. I want to go back to, I want to get rid of that one. We don't need that. We don't need the bypass keyframes. We just need the levels, and that was my mistake. And pull it all the way down to 0 decibels at the very end. So now when it plays through, we should get a nice fade out of the music. Yeah, that's really great. That's really, really nice. So let's do this. Let's ripple delete, move everything over. And instead of the cross dissolve, let's do something different. Oops. Put a dip to black there since we're kind of cutting off their video. Alright, it's a rough render, but I think it's going to work. So this should just dip out, dip back up, and play through. So yeah, I kind of like that. Oh, I like that a lot, actually. Yeah, that turned out really, really nice. Okay, that's going to be it for this video. In part 2, we're going to look at how to clean out some distracting sounds that might have been picked up by the microphone that were unintentional, that make your video sound weird, and so we'll look at how to fix that. Until then, thanks for watching.